If you have an LLC and you're looking to build out the business credit for it so that you can get access to funding faster this year, these are the exact things that I would be paying attention to. So the first thing you want to pay attention to is classifying your business in the right industry. Now, having the right industry codes, which is also known as NAICS code or NAICS code, can make or break you getting approved for $5,000 or $50,000 altogether. Because the reality is that you can have the right name, you can be banking with the best bank in the world, you can have the proper structure, whether it's an LLC or a corp, but if it's not bucketed correctly, then that can cause a denial in it of itself, which is what you want to avoid. But here's the thing, your goal shouldn't just be to change the industry that you're in, but rather find the right classification within that industry. And so as you're picking your NAICS code, when you're applying for business credit lines or when you are opening up business bank accounts, you want to make sure that you understand how your industry code is being rated. Here's what that means. Your industry is either going to be rated as a low risk industry, a medium to high risk industry, or a restricted industry. Now here's a pro tip. Just because your industry is classified as a high risk doesn't mean that it's going to be denied for business credit lines altogether. Some banks actually prefer to work with your type of business. You just have to figure out which bank that is. So there's two important questions that I teach my clients to ask whenever they're working with a financial institution that I want to give you. The first question that you want to ask a business banker is, what is your bank's lending appetite? And the second question that you want to ask is, what type of businesses is your lending portfolio composed of? Now, this is immediately going to tell you two things about that bank and also if your industry is going to be accepted. The first thing you're going to find out right there is, do they work with businesses just like yours? So you're looking for experience. You're looking for a bank that favors, again, your line of work. And then the second thing you're going to find out if they don't is this a bank that I may not want to partner up with? Or do you have to reclassify your business altogether because they'll let you know right there, no, you're actually in a restricted industry. Now, the second thing that I would be paying attention to with my LLC this year, if I'm looking to get access to business credit, is picking the right bank for my LLC. Now, we briefly just finished touching on that, but I want to go a little bit deeper because the reality is that some banks, some credit unions, and some local financial institutions, they're just flat out not going to work with startups altogether. So it's not just about having the right NAICS code in place, but it's also about understanding, okay, if my business is maybe under a year old, is this a lending institution that would actually want to service me and look at my file? Now, if you're well above a year old, maybe your LLC is 5 years old, maybe your LLC is 6 years old, then you can definitely take this next point to the bank, no pun intended. Since every bank and financial institution has their own requirements and has their own underwriting criteria, I like to take a look at 3 to 4 different options at any given moment that's going to help me get access to business credit lines. So the way that I would typically structure this is I have either a 2-2 ratio or a 3-1 ratio. Now, a 2-2 ratio simply means that I'm going to have at least 2 big banks that I can open accounts with and get funding with, and then 2 smaller banks like a regional bank or a community bank. The other ratio that you can use is a 3-1. That's if you maybe wanted to use 3 big banks. So that would be like a Chase, a Bank of America, and a US bank. And then I would pick a smaller bank. Now, it doesn't always have to be a small bank, and it doesn't always have to be banks altogether. You can also use local credit unions, but you still want to keep these ratios in mind of all the different financial institutions that you're partnering with, because remember, each of them has their own lending criteria. Some of them are going to want to work with the startup. Some of them are going to want to work with maybe a more cash flow heavy seasoned business that's maybe been in business for at least 5 years. Now, a quick pro tip here is I don't recommend just having a bunch of accounts with big banks. And I also don't recommend just having a bunch of accounts with small credit unions and small local banks altogether. You want to properly distribute each of these accounts so that you have access to more funding options, because a big bank may not have the same funding options as a smaller bank and vice versa. So this way you're able to take advantage of both sides of the pot. Now, the third thing that I would be paying attention to is going to be leveraging the liquidity. Here's what that means. Don't just open an account for the sake of opening an account. Actually use the account for what it's intended for. Banks and financial institutions are getting much smarter and they're understanding how people are trying to game the system. So you want to avoid that because this can get your account shut down altogether and even blacklisted from a bank, which is what you want to avoid at all costs. So what you want to focus on is as you're leveraging your liquidity, this means that you're putting your cash flow and you're putting your revenue in through that account, but you're not just stopping there. You're paying attention to the balance inside of that business checking account because that's going to tell a story to the underwriter and to the bank, and it's going to let them know whether you are a risky business, if you're constantly hitting zero, or if maybe your daily or your monthly average is constantly going under $500. That's going to be a no-no with most banks, especially in the business world. So a recommendation that I have that I see serves our clients the best is keeping an account above a $3,000 threshold for business credit purposes, especially as you're about to go into your first round of funding or second round of funding. The worst thing that you can do is have an account go negative, especially within a 90-day period that you're looking to open a credit line with. That's going to get your file flagged altogether, and banks are going to say, whoa, no. Like, this is way too risky, which is why we're not going to extend you any credit lines. Now, I do want to take it a step further because it's not just about having liquidity in the bank. You also want to use that account. And what I mean by using it is constantly have money flowing into it. And so if you can connect the payment processor to that business checking account, it's going to serve you far better in the long run to get access to some credit lines. And then you also want to have some type of account transactions flowing through it. This can be anywhere between 12 to, I say the sweet spot is 18 transactions. This can be simple things like having a subscription on auto pay, paying for maybe gas anytime you're about to go out to a meeting, or even paying for a dinner. Go ahead and pay for that, or at least put it on a business credit card and then have it flow from this bank account so that the bank sees, okay, they're constantly using this account for business purposes, which also lets them know that they're constantly out there in business. Now, remember this, one of the main metrics that banks use to track the health of a business is how their cash flow is and how they're managing their revenue that's coming into the account. Now, picture this scenario. You have two business owners, both of them identical credit scores, both of them inside of the same industry, both of them have the same type of business bank account. The difference is that business owner A has $20,000 in their business checking account, while business owner B has $0 in that business checking account. Pop quiz. Who do you think the bank is going to feel better lending money to and actually wanting to do business with? If you guessed business owner A, then you would be right. And so when you are establishing a relationship with the bank, again, it's not just about opening the account. Use it for what it's intended for so that you can reap the rewards later of having them partner with you and extend you credit lines. So there you have it. If you found value in this video today, consider sharing it with someone that you know is going to need credit to scale their business this year. Other than that, the only thing that we ask you is that you, again, consider sharing this with a friend, with a loved one. Hit that like button down below because it does help this content reach a larger audience. But other than that, I appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, everyone, I will see you in the next video.